Greetings and welcome to the Philosopher's Corner. In this video, I'd like to make a few follow-up comments to the video I posted just a few moments ago, an hour or so ago, excuse me, on P.W. Swivel's magical thinking and Professor Anton's response to that. At the end of my video, I mentioned that what we needed was to educate children at an early age to be rational, so that when they mature, they have the rational tools in place, so that they can, in a sense, avoid falling back on that more or less natural, symbolic, uh, figurative, and perhaps religious way of understanding the world, personification and metaphor and things like that. So what I'd like to talk about are what I call the three stages of knowledge, or I'm sorry, the three stages of belief, and how we classify our beliefs as knowledge. In a sense, this is an historical sequence because when we first started expressing our beliefs in our mythology, for instance, perhaps 30,000 years ago, maybe 15,000 years ago, um, uh, we didn't really know anything about the world. And so basically we expressed our thoughts about how we behaved and uh, project those onto the world. So for instance, we see the sun and the moon as the two eyes of a deity that is staring down at us, the moon being, of course, the evil eye. So we get to the belief that there is a God in heaven watching us, watching over us, looking down on us. Now, strictly speaking, there's no reason to believe that, except, of course, the fact that it makes us feel safe in the world. So we have an emotional attachment to the idea. And that is exactly, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I can tell, what the word belief refers to. Leaf coming from the German Laub, which means love. And so basically a belief is an idea to which we have an emotional attachment. And that type of belief is what I call pure belief, the simplest stage of, or the earliest, I suppose, stage of belief, where you simply hold on to an idea because of the emotional response that it gives you, the security or whatever. The second stage of belief then comes when we start to discover that rather than the magical connections of contagious magic and imitative magic that we believe exist in the world, when we come to see that what actually exists are causality and analogy, causality then replacing contagious magic, contiguity again being the basis of causality. Things have to be physically in contact for this type of causality to occur. And of course, contiguity being involved, physical contact, in contagious magic. Analogy then replaces imitative magic, the magic of similarity, and causality and analogy become the two methods of science. For causality, there are two logics, what we call abductive logic and adductive logic, where abductive logic says that you have an effect in front of you, my lawn's all wet. And so you reach back into the past and say, what could have caused that? And so you think clearly, if it had rained last night, my lawn would be wet, so therefore it must have rained last night. And so we sort of determine a cause from the effect and from our understanding of the world. Adductive logic, AD as opposed to AB. Adductive logic works the other way. It goes from the effect, from the cause to the effect. Basically saying, well, something like nature makes ice by removing heat from water. I predict that if I remove heat from water, if I produce those causes, if I remove heat from water, then I can produce ice in the future. And that's adductive logic. It's useful in technology a lot, as a matter of fact. And then finally for, excuse me, for analogy, we have two kinds of logic, inductive logic and deductive logic. But deductive logic is it's somewhat different from the other three, abductive, adductive, and inductive logic. And as a matter of fact, for the second stage of belief, what I call sound belief, because it is related to physical facts and relationships as we experience them empirically and phenomenologically, sound belief consists in a pure belief supported or corroborated, if you will, by, as I said, abductive, adductive, and inductive logical ideas and evidence and things like that. And then finally, the third stage of belief is what I call justified belief. So we have pure belief on the bottom, sound belief as the next stage up, and then justified belief as the highest of the three stages of belief. And what this involves is developing a deductive system such that if our assumptions of the deductive system are true, the ideas that we discovered in our sound belief, the second stage of belief, those ideas must be true. In other words, what we want to do is develop a deductive system that says if our assumptions that give us the deductive system are true, then necessarily our beliefs about the world are true. Now, that doesn't mean that anything is really true, because it starts with the word if. If our assumptions that give us the deductive system are true, then we can deduce ideas to show that our beliefs about the physical world are true. So to give you an example, we have in sound belief the belief that all electrons have the same mass. Right? And this comes from the fact that every time we try to determine the mass of an electron, it always comes out the same. This does, of course, does not mean that all electrons have the same mass. We just generalize for the sake of brevity and expediency and say all electrons have the same mass. But then if we can take the next step and develop a deductive system based on a few assumptions that if those assumptions are true, then all electrons must have the same mass, then we've created a hypothetical deductive system that corroborates our sound belief, and we have created what is now called justified belief. And strictly speaking, this is what we want to call knowledge. And so when we think about what we believe, we have to ask ourselves, what are the reasons that we believe these things? If they're purely emotional, then those beliefs may not be as reliably accurate with respect to reality as we would hope. And of course, even if we have justified belief, that is, if we have good, sound scientific knowledge and the deductive system to support that, that doesn't mean that we're correct either. It's just those are the tools that we use to examine the world rationally. And so if we're talking about rational knowledge, I think that's what should be involved. Thank you.